Hello YouTubers and fellow native flute players. My name is Martin, and today I'm going to be reviewing this Native American style drone flute in the key of G minor. This was made to order for me by Artem Repin. You can visit his website in the description below, artemrepin.com. So materials, the body of this flute is curly maple, so you can see this beautiful wavy grain pattern to the wood. And then I had him add this wave inlay in crushed turquoise. And then on the totem, which is a single piece style totem, it's made from zebra wood here and some extra pieces of maple, I think. So my idea, I live on the coast, and so I wanted to have sort of sand dunes and then the places where the river meets the sea with the water thing going on. So this flute is tuned to A equals 432 hertz, which means that it will sound slightly flat against a concert-turned instrument like a guitar or a piano, but it's tuned to itself, so it still sounds great as a solo instrument or with percussion, but not necessarily with other instruments. Other things to note about this is that Artem has a specialty here. He adds this seventh hole here, which is similar to adding a hole above here. It allows you to get an extra step or a half step above the octave of what you would normally be able to do. So if you have a scale, you can play a little bit further on it. And so on. The finish on this is rosewood oil, so you can still feel the grain of the wood. It doesn't have that smooth, glossy lacquer finish. And then the inside of the flute is for the most part unfinished. I still give it some oil every once in a while. Initially, I overplayed the flute, and it caused it to crack here, so you have to be careful with that when you're ordering a flute that's being newly made. Break it in slowly so that you don't make that mistake. I ended up having to clamp this, glue it, and then I did one of Clint Gloss's flute binding in order to, give that a little extra insurance so it doesn't, end up popping here again. So far, no other problems with that. It's very comfortable to play. I feel like the hole spacing is really good. You will notice that I play the flute left-handed, and it's because of this thumb hole. It's very uncomfortable to have left hand at the top, for me at least, long fingers and all that, because I have to hold my thumb sort of cocked sideways like this, and then my fingers here are locked in this position. So I just learned to play left-handed and haven't really looked back since. So I'm going to play the various scales for you so you get an idea for how this sounds. I'll include the extended range to that where applicable, and play the drone and single so you get a sense of one versus the other. So standard minor pentatonic, extending that by a step. Arabic scale. A little note on that extra note at the end, it's actually the equivalent of this fingering here. Now, of course, if I do that, or here, I can also go above that by using that hole. So that's the difference between using that hole versus releasing it. So blues scale. extra scale that I came up with, kind of a variation on the Mayakobushi scale. So it has a little bit of that Japanese flavor. Starts with this fingering here, little bonus material for those of you who are still watching. And then I think that is it for scales. This flute, it's very difficult to overblow. I think Artem designs his flutes with the intent of them having a lot of air pressure, and so it doesn't really jump octaves easily, but it will chirp. And so this particular drone flute is very good at percussion, because when you play in the upper notes above the fifth and give it that little percussive sound, it sounds very harmonic. It creates good chords. I'll give you an example of how that sounds. So, a little more about this extended range. What this basically does on the whole is you can extend beyond the octave 3 steps. So it's the whole flute is basically an octave and a half. So I'm going to make my best attempt here at playing the chromatic scale, and then I will show you how far you can take that above what you normally would be able to do. There's the octave, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to use that extended little bit here, 5, 6, and that's the highest achievable note on this flute, is with this fingering right here when you're using the extended range. So it comes in handy if you're trying to recreate a song and you can't quite hit that note on a standard 6-hole flute. That 7th hole will allow you to get that little bit extra. Some other things that this extra hole will allow you to do is that when you start on mode 4 here, and you release that, you know, like if you're doing a trill or something, it'll cause it to jump by a third. And then for this fingering here, we'll just call that mode 5, whatever. Same thing, it's a third. And then if I go up to here, it will jump by a fourth. And then here, also a fourth. So, very nice chord there. One feature that I don't know if Artem has explicitly mentioned it, but I thought was really cool about this flute compared to others is that what the 7th hole allows you to do is to get a second minor pentatonic out of one flute. So this is G minor. When I release this hole here, I am at B flat, A sharp. So I can actually create a scale starting here rather than here. So kind of a general sense of how that works. We'll imagine in theory here that there's another hole down below the others here, and that's covered. And when I have all the other holes above that covered, and I release this first one, it's always going to jump by 3 semitones. So we have, all right? So if I continue in that fashion, going up the flute here, I'll start here on the B flat. All right, and then we have mode 4, which is a common alternative way of playing if you're trying to, you know, match flutes, and so on. That was using the extended hole there. So what you can do then with this extra hole is I can create a scale here. next to the regular one on G. All right, so you've basically, by buying one of these, you've gotten 2 flutes in one, plus that extra little half octave that you get from the Mode 4. So definitely worth considering with one of these. I would recommend, back to the little bit here, I would definitely recommend getting some mineral oil or something, oiling your whole flute, you know, a couple times a year, and especially in the slow air chamber here, just fill it right up, let it drain out. So, you know, maintaining the, you know, the health of that wood so that it doesn't expand and contract. That's also why I have this funny little tie here, is because the damage that I caused is making the wood here real difficult to tell, but there's a slight gap. There it is. There's a slight gap right here because the wood is starting to bend a little bit. So I've got it just tied down extra in this corner so that it's still getting that true sound coming through. So I would definitely recommend getting a flute from Artem, worth checking out. I'm going to do a little bit of improv now so you can get a general sense of how this flute sounds now that we've gone through all of the you know, the details about it. So here we go. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll be doing more reviews on the various flutes in my collection in the future. Thanks for watching.